That's not a faster chicken. That's 460,000 years of trial and error compressed into the lifetime of a single bird standing in front of you right now. Rewind to the beginning. The first spears humans ever used are 460,000 years old, older than our own species, Homo sapiens, which didn't even exist yet. Getting meat back then wasn't a trip to a store or even a hunt with modern odds. It meant walking directly towards something large and strong enough to kill you first. Early spears were thrusting weapons only, nothing thrown. You had to close the distance completely and stab an animal by hand, at point-blank range, every time. Close enough to strike meant close enough to be struck back. A wounded animal doesn't collapse politely. It panics, and it fights. Some hunters skipped the spear-first approach and chose a different weapon instead, their own legs. It's called persistence hunting, and it relies on endurance, not strength. A human body can sweat continuously to shed heat while running. Almost every four-legged prey animal can only pant to cool down, and panting fails once you push a full sprint. So hunters didn't overpower anything. They simply followed, for hours, sometimes nearly an entire day, until the animal's own body gave out from heat, not injury. Two groups still hunt exactly this way today: the San people of the Kalahari Desert and the Raramuri of the Copper Canyon region in northern Mexico. Around 18,000 years ago, a new tool rewrote the math entirely: the atlatl, a simple wooden lever that launches a spear the way a sling launches a stone. It let hunters strike from a much safer distance, with more force behind the throw than a bare arm could ever generate alone. But even with the atlatl in hand, one hunting trip still meant one possible kill, and whether luck happened to be on your side that day. Here's the one problem hunting never solved, no matter how skilled you got: luck itself. Some days you found an animal, some days you found nothing, and your family went hungry. Around 11,000 years ago, in the region now called the Fertile Crescent, in what's today the Middle East, humans tried something no one had tried before. Instead of chasing meat across miles of open land, they started keeping it close, alive, fed by hand, and waiting right outside the door. Sheep and goats became the first animals ever domesticated, specifically to be eaten later. Not tamed for company or labor, but raised on purpose for food. It wasn't really about avoiding work. It was about something hunting could never promise you: certainty. A herd doesn't vanish overnight the way a hunted animal's whereabouts do. A herd is food you can physically count, standing in front of you every morning. Cattle and pigs joined the herd almost 2,000 years after sheep and goats had already been domesticated. A long gap, not a small one. That delay wasn't random. Cattle and pigs require settled villages to manage properly, while sheep and goats can travel comfortably alongside nomadic groups. So the exact order animals were domesticated in quietly reveals something else: how differently humans were already living before any of these animals even arrived. Halfway across the world, in China, pigs were domesticated a second time, completely independently, around 8,000 years ago, with no contact with the Fertile Crescent at all. Trade worked, and hunger from bad luck became rare. But guaranteed and fast turned out to be two separate problems, and only one had been solved. For thousands of years after domestication, meat stayed roughly the same speed it had always been: slow, seasonal, tied to each animal's own natural growth. A pig still needed the better part of a year to reach full size. A cow took considerably longer, regardless of how well it was cared for. Farms grew larger, villages grew into proper towns, and meat became something ordinary people could buy at a stall instead of hunting or herding it themselves. But the animal itself hadn't changed much since the Fertile Crescent, 10,000 years earlier. Same rough size, same rough timeline, just better organized around it. Its growth rate was still set by its own biology. No farmer, however skilled or wealthy, could simply will an animal to grow faster than its body allowed. Meat had become reliable. You could plan around it, trade it, tax it. It was still, after 10,000 years of effort, not remotely fast. Then, in the 20th century, something shifted. Farmers stopped simply raising animals the way their ancestors had for millennia. They started engineering them. Selective breeding began deliberately targeting one trait above every other consideration: how quickly an animal could reach full slaughter weight, generation after generation. Feed formulas were redesigned from scratch, too, not just to keep an animal alive, but to convert every possible gram of it directly into muscle. By the middle of that century, a timeline that had held steady for 10,000 years was suddenly about to collapse in on itself. In the 1950s, a chicken took roughly 90 days to reach slaughter weight and needed about 3 pounds of feed for every pound of meat it produced. Today, that same weight takes only 35 days on roughly 1.69 pounds of feed per pound of meat, a fraction of the time and the input. That's the number from the very start of this video. Now you finally know exactly where it came from and what a century of work went into it. It's not one single invention behind that shift. It's a full century of genetics research and feed science stacked on top of the domestication that started this chain 10,000 years ago. And the scale involved is no longer measured in individual animals at all. It's measured, plainly, in billions. Roughly 80 billion land animals are slaughtered for food worldwide every year, a number that barely existed in any comparable form a century ago. In the United States alone, meat packers process roughly 33 million cattle and nearly 130 million hogs every year, just to keep supplies steady. 9 billion chickens move through American slaughterhouses in that same 1 year, more than there are people on the entire planet, from one country's industry alone. Every one of those numbers traces back to a single person 460,000 years ago, walking toward something that could easily kill them, hoping only for dinner. Hunting was luck. Domestication was certainty. Industrial farming is raw speed multiplied by scale. 3 different solutions to one problem that never changed. Same basic need the entire 460,000 years. Just 3 different answers to it, each one built directly on top of the last. Next time you casually open a refrigerator, you're not just looking at food on a shelf. You're looking at the end point of a very, very long chase. Water was next on that same list of things humans used to chase by hand. That story starts with a single river, and it's genuinely stranger than this one. That single limitation held true for centuries on end, through the rise and fall of empires, through famines, through entire civilizations that came and went.